Some mornings feel like slow-moving postcards from a life well lived. I wake before sunrise, ease my stiff knees into my favorite rocking chair, and wrap weathered fingers around a mug advertising a diner that shut down back in my college days. The lake behind my home rests in a silver-gray hush, reflecting a calm that only comes after decades spent chasing deadlines, raising kids, and watching the world spin faster than you ever expected. At that hour, the only sounds are a meadowlark's warble and the soft creak of the dock settling into place, a reminder that, for once, time is finally on my side. It was during one of those peaceful, hard-earned mornings that everything changed. I had just lifted my mug for a second, grateful sip when an ear-splitting shriek cut through the quiet. Karen Henderson, Pine Ridge's self-appointed queen, defender of complaints, and unofficial guardian of property values, was in full meltdown behind my brand-new privacy wall. The 12-foot structure of treated cedar and reinforced concrete towered like a monument to justice, wiping out Karen's million-dollar lake view in the same elegant stroke that protected my own. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me tell you how Pine Ridge's most notorious HOA president learned that karma sometimes shows up disguised as a legally compliant home improvement project. When I bought my modest 3-bedroom ranch on Lakeside Drive, I thought I'd finally found the peaceful corner I'd been working toward. The property backed directly onto Crystal Lake, complete with a private dock and beach access that the previous owners had tended for over 30 years. During the home tour, neighbors smiled and waved from their spotless lawns. Everything seemed friendly, except for the woman across the cul-de-sac, watching my every move through lace curtains. That was Karen Henderson, living in a flashy 5,000-square-foot McMansion that loomed over the street from its slight hill. She had a sweeping view of the lake but no direct access to it, unless she trespassed through my yard or walked half a mile to the public beach. For a few months, life felt peaceful, almost like an early retirement. I spent weekends kayaking, grilling burgers for friends who preferred simple food over fancy steakhouses, and enjoying the quiet life I'd worked 20 years in corporate accounting to earn. Then came the Saturday morning knock. Karen stood at my door in designer athleisure, clipboard in hand, her smile stretched tightly across freshly Botoxed skin. She introduced herself as the HOA president and rattled off a list of violations. My kayak rack was 2 inches too close to the property line. My deck furniture wasn't from the approved vendor list. The native wildflowers in my garden supposedly violated subsection 12.4 of the landscaping guidelines. I nodded, made the adjustments, and naively thought the issue was resolved. I couldn't have been more wrong. Soon, random people began strolling through my backyard, snapping photos of the lake and lounging on my dock. When I confronted one couple, they apologized and showed me an online listing, the Henderson Lakeside Retreat, promising exclusive lake access, with photos featuring my dock, my beach, even my kayak. The rental rate? $300 a night. My blood boiled. I marched across the street and found Karen power washing her driveway in the blistering heat. She didn't flinch. Instead, she tilted her head and told me, dripping condescension, that the Lakeview was a shared neighborhood asset, meant to boost property values. If I blocked access or complained, she'd cite me under the Neighborhood Harmony Clause. Then she smiled and suggested I should be grateful her high-quality guests visited our community. That night, while other residents enjoyed their cozy routines, I pored over the HOA bylaws with the same focus I once used on corporate audits. And to my delight, Karen had missed several crucial details. Homeowners were allowed to build privacy structures, fences, walls, hedges, within certain height and material limits. Even better, a grandfather clause protected property rights established before the HOA existed. The next morning, I called my college buddy Derek, now a property law expert. He laughed harder than I had ever heard. Not only was Karen trespassing and committing fraud, she was practically begging for a lawsuit. But Derek suggested something far more poetic. That's how my two-phase plan began. I hired a surveyor, gathered every permit, and contracted a crew known for fast, clean construction. An architect drafted plans that maximized privacy and lake view blocking while staying strictly within HOA rules. 12 feet tall, approved materials, neutral color palette. Pure, beautiful compliance. Memorial Day weekend arrived, Karen's favorite time to host the annual HOA barbecue. At 7 a.m. sharp on Saturday, construction trucks rolled in. By noon, the posts were set in concrete. By dusk, the frame towered over Karen's yard. Sunday morning brought the cedar panels. By Sunday afternoon, the finishing touches were done. I stood back and admired my masterpiece of malicious compliance, a wall that preserved my panoramic lake view while gifting Karen an unobstructed view of fresh cedar planks. I was halfway through a celebratory beer when her scream tore through the twilight. She stormed across the street, party guests trailing behind her, her face shifting between rage red and panic purple. She threatened lawsuits, arrests, and community-wide retaliation. Calmly, I handed her a folder containing every permit, the surveyor's official report, highlighted sections of the bylaws, screenshots of her fraudulent rental listings, and a cease and desist letter from Derek's firm. As she flipped through the papers, her fury curdled into fear. Guests exchanged uneasy glances. Some pulled out their phones, checking to see whether their properties had shown up in her rental ads. One board member quietly wondered if HOA insurance covered fraud committed by its president. Another muttered about the legal consequences of false advertising. Karen demanded an emergency board meeting to force the wall's removal. Members reluctantly agreed, but no one seemed eager. At Tuesday's meeting, I arrived with a full slide deck, statements from confused renters, timestamped security footage of trespassers, and a simple timeline of Karen's intimidation tactics. Heads nodded as I spoke. Other homeowners shared their own stories, how strangers wandered onto their docks, how renters picnicked in private gardens after being told the lakefront was community access. Karen's rebuttal was a jumble of buzzwords: property values, community synergy, shared amenities. But when asked about unreported rental income, she had no answer. The treasurer requested her financial records, and the room filled with quiet satisfaction. The vote to remove her as HOA president was unanimous. The board issued a formal statement reaffirming each owner's right to privacy and banning any advertising of amenities not legally owned. Word of Karen's downfall spread fast. Her listings vanished. Renters demanded refunds. The state attorney general opened a fraud investigation. 3 months later, as I spread mulch beneath the lilacs, a process server showed up looking for Karen. She was facing multiple lawsuits and potential fines of over $200,000. The last time I saw her, she was loading boxes into a moving truck, a foreclosure notice taped to her front door. As the truck pulled away, she shot one last glare at my cedar fortress. I raised my coffee in a silent toast. She replied with a single, graceless gesture before disappearing from Pine Ridge for good. The wall still stands today, its cedar grain aging into a dignified silver under sun and rain, a reminder that boundaries, both wooden and human, are essential to any community. And on quiet mornings, as steam curls from my mug and the lake glimmers like polished pewter, I can almost hear the fading echo of Karen's first shriek dissolving into the peace I finally earned. If you enjoyed this story of neighborly justice and karma delivered with craftsmanship and paperwork, give this video a like and subscribe for more tales where karma arrives with a clipboard and a concrete mixer.